Right, so we're trying to see, because we have this sharing presentation. It says go to meeting is sharing your screen. Let's see, maybe this, no, it was on, it was there. When I choose it.
It's on internet.
So this is,
It's on internet.
yeah, I think so. So if we could see the same screen as we were sharing, I will share it. So let's have my computer here.
No?
Yeah, so what we want is to share, let's see, where did I have my other computer? I have it here, I'll just, yeah, I think it's good to see the same, and we want to do it so we can actually see it here, on this screen here. And then what we want to do is that we say share your screen, and then question, should we share this screen maybe? No, okay, now it comes here. Okay. That's perfect. That's very good. Yes. We'll see that the color.
The one, the other you put.
I will not have, just to make sure this is running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so GoToMeeting is running, so that's fine. Okay, welcome back. I hope you had a great lunch and enjoyed a little bit of sun and warmth while you were here. We are starting now the second session, and we will start with a plenary and then divide ourselves into 3 groups. But before we do that, we will present the challenges. We have identified 3 challenges that we will organize the work under. And remember, the overall goal is to transfer the knowledge and the results from the pioneering citizens observatories and the 3 VGI projects to kickstart the new citizens observatories. Now, I'm going to start with to introduce challenge 1, and then Karel will introduce you to challenge number 2, and Arne will introduce the 3rd one. Now, on my behalf, I I will introduce Luigi because he has to run, but he has very, very extensive experiences in the overall perspective of the citizens' observatories and what worked and what didn't, and how we can better connect with users, and actually how is what we do being used. So Luigi, I give the floor to you to give a short presentation and introduction to challenge number 1, and then when you hear about these challenges, try to figure out how you can both benefit from and participate in then the groups that we are forming afterwards. There will be there will be possibilities to change group during the 2 days. We hope actually it's not a possibility. We really encourage that will happen in order to maximize the transfer of knowledge. So Luigi.
Thanks, Bente. Thanks, everyone. Let me try this time to get the website right. Okay. The thing is that when the conference is in your city, you are always busy with a million other things. So I asked Bente if I could speak quickly now at the beginning of the session because I have to rush away. I'm really sorry about that. I just wanted to point you to a few concepts that could be useful if you are involved in new initiatives related to citizen science. And they are coming from the experience and the legacy of the Cyclops project, the project that I coordinated together with Jaume in the past 3 or 4 years. So the first feedback I'd like to share is that in a large citizen science project, the moment in which you are really ready to engage the citizens is toward the end of the project, because during most of the project you are preparing the tools, you are preparing the setting, and things are really in a prototype phase. And you cannot really engage citizens when you have your tools that are not very ready, because otherwise the user experience will be bad and they will not repeat. So it's important to be careful with that and to present the tools, the methodologies, and whatever you are working on to the citizens when they are ready for the citizens. And because this happens towards the end of the funding period or whatever experience, at least the big projects, then this is a problem, because when you are ready to engage the citizens, you don't have the money to do it. So this is something to maybe to keep in mind and to try to have always something that is ready from the user experience point of view, rather before than later. For example, in Cyclops, we try to engage citizens in a lot of ways, and till a point they participated also in the co-design of the tools and the methodology that we prepared. To be kind of more concrete about what we were doing, we were capturing the color of the sea through a specific app, and we were measuring the transparency of the water column through a do-it-yourself instrument that we, let's say, taught to the citizens, especially schools, how to build. So that was one thing. The other feedback I would like to share is that usually when you think about the user interface of whatever you're working on, you are thinking about target users. For example, the typical case of citizen science project is that the target users are roughly falling within 3 categories. One are the citizens, of course. Another one often are the researchers, and another one are the decision makers, including the policy makers and sometimes the European Commission. So I think that the temptation and something that often happens is that you aim to provide several interfaces depending on the user, because you think, okay, the decision maker is not interested in the same thing as the citizen, and their capability to process data is not the same, and their understanding of the situation is not the same. And so the general approach is to build different interfaces, different websites, or different whatever, depending on the target audience. We found that could be a mistake, because people in general don't like to be classified. So if I'm a citizen and I see that there are two interfaces, one for citizens and one for researchers, they think, well, what is in the other interface that I cannot see or that I cannot access? So we found that, and this is something that we found really interacting with the citizens and with all the other people. We found that it's more interesting to, let's say, give the orientation of the interface in, let's say, to present in the interface not what the target audience is supposed to expect, but to orientate the interface toward the content of it. So, for example, in the Ion Water Cyclops context, we define three interfaces. One is about data collection. So in that interface, you could see all the data that were collected by the project, including some context data that were not collected by the project. So you could see, for example, data about water quality together with other data that were coming from official open source sources that can be related and can be interesting for people looking at water quality. Then there was another interface that was about the analysis of this data. For example, about the prediction of the status of a certain environment. So that was, we call it kind of data analyzer. So an interface where it's clear that you need some more background, and you decide if you have it or not. You can be where you want, and then you can play with parameters, you can play with simulation, you can play with prediction. And then we prepared another interface that was the data repository. And that's a place where you can download the data that you are interested in. So while, let's say, the first interface is about visualization, the other one is about, okay, I download the data because everything should be open, and then I use this data for my own calculation or whatever. And another thing that actually we don't have, but everybody should have, is an API that in many cases will help a lot people to use and reuse the data you collected. And the last thing I wanted to tell you is that about sustainability and exploitation of results and methodologies after the end of the project. So as I said before in the quick presentation, we rebranded everything that was Cyclops related at the very end of the project, and for, let's say, the life of the project after the end of funding. We rebranded Ion Water. So here you see still the two brands together, but the idea is that the logo that you see on the top is the Ion Water logo, and this is what Cyclops, the form of Cyclops after the public funding project. And in this page, concretely, you see that we just started to prepare this page, is related to, as I was saying before, to a sailing race around the world. So this race will start in November from France. It will go around the world and will go back after 3 months to France. So there will be boats crossing all the oceans and collecting data. And they will do that through the methodology that we developed. So what is, why I'm saying this? Because if you prepare things after the end of the project in a way that is easily reusable, then people will, because people will be asking you anyway to use your results or your tools, your app. They will do it, because if you do a nice work of dissemination, people will know that you exist and that you have these tools. But sometimes the problem is that if you don't maintain this in the right way, you are not able to offer this possibility. So I would suggest that, especially thinking about when you will not have a lot of funding, to find a way to host or your data, website, and whatever dynamic interaction with the citizens in a very low-cost way. There are very low-cost ways. I mean, we are maintaining everything about Scentlok with a very, very low budget. Something that, let's say, a partner that is minimally interested in the scope, in the domain of the project, will be able to provide without even feeling it, okay? So that's point number one. You have to be very conservative and very careful about the cost for maintaining the, let's say, the physical infrastructure, at least until there will not a common European infrastructure where you can load your stuff and then, let's say, have other people taking care of this. Then the other thing is that the tools that you have, for example, apps are typically a part of the mix, and maybe websites where you can also upload data and visualize data. So have them in a way that are as much stable as possible, so that you don't have to maintain them unless there is a big upgrade in some operating system. So you should have a stable application that are still there. For example, we have an old application for Scentlok that is still working even if it has been done 3 years ago. So you should try to study the dependency of your software from the changes in the operating environment. And so in this way, for example, when they asked us about a month ago, okay, can we use your stuff in the Van de Globe around the world sailing regatta? We said yes. We can do that very quickly, and we did it very quickly because we just handed the phone to the skipper, and the phone automatically collect data. It is sent more or less automatically to us, because when you are in the middle of the ocean, sometimes connection is tricky, even by satellite. But at the end, we have the data, and the data are automatically not only visualized in the website, there is this dedicated website that you are seeing for the regatta, but the data are in any case visualized in the general Eye on Water website. So all the data will be visible on this website. But specifically, we did a small development for this specific occasion. And as I said before, the only thing that you should really provide to everybody is an API. So if somebody wants to use your data to embed them in whatever system they have, they can do it easily. And that's it. It was just, sorry if it was longer than I thought, but it was a few practical suggestions for getting things started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luigi. That was indeed very useful. I think by showing some practical examples, you get a better understanding of what we hope to address, or we want to address in challenge number 1. I think the output that we would look for is a collection, then a document where we collect all the experiences at this level, and we can use the material that we then gather to then transfer and give to the new or the future, the coming and the future citizens observatories. but we can also make it into a publication that could be authored then by those who are participating. So it has a potential to become several products out of this meeting. So, but for these days, at least if we can end up by the end of the hackathon with a list of different experiences and categorize them as Jomi just did, I think that will be a great achievement for these days. So we will then come back to how we organize the 3 groups, but this was the introduction to challenge number 1. Thank you. And then challenge number 2, Carol?
Challenge number 2 will be divided into 3 parts, very short from my side, and then will be 2 remote presentations. So I will start shortly and mention what is orientation, and then I will ask to my colleagues to give you more overview about the ideas. You heard it was this challenge. It was challenge number 2. Okay, I will be in my introduction very short and fast, and at the beginning I will introduce some could be technological tools which we are planning to use, and also with this I would like to mention person when we will build the team who will be responsible. You will hear soon Michal Kepka. He is the guy speaking about Scentlok, and Scentlok is in our way and understanding the core tool for on the server side to be able managing the data from sensors, VGI, mobile monitoring. Mike will shortly tell you about Open API, because this is one thing what we would like to discuss. Yes, if we would like to share the data from different repositories, then it is necessary to agree some API, and I think that this is what we see as very important. Then Raitis is here, and he is on our side main person for visualization tools. So who will be ready for this, please come with him together with Shimon, who is not here but will be remotely with this HIS. We have also mobile solution. I think that Raitis know both well, and it will be supported by these colleagues for this. And of course, it was already mentioned 3 data sets in our morning presentation. And also this is something what we would like to discuss, because we heard in many presentations in the morning from the Citizens Observatory, the land use and other, and probably will be really very good to agree on some common approaches, because with if we would like to cover Europe by some common land use, it is good if we will be able to contribute. We have probably more experiences now with building this land use. Will be good to discuss the possibility how easy update this land use, smart point of interest, and open transport map. And we came also with 3 basic ideas who follow SDI for apps web pages. You can read already, and Runar will now introduce maps as VGI. Yes, this is the first, our big challenge, because what we are really trying that people are able to share maps, work on one maps from different places, to be able to integrate the data into the maps and use these maps, for example, also in education or other. This concept we are now developing a part of edge layers technology, but we would like to extend this and discuss how this concept could be used on other. Second is Scentlok and edge layers as tools which could be used for VGI and based on our experiences. And Thomas is the person, please Thomas stand up, who would like to speak with anybody who is dealing with VGI and farming sector. Yes, so so please anybody who is ready for this, contact him. And now I would like to ask Anne, could you help me to switch Runar for presentation? Chrome, yes.
Let's see here. Where do we see that screen? You can go to that presentation and see the Chrome version. Or no, we will see the GoToMeeting. The remote presentation as I did before. That's all. Maybe not that one. So no, it said not that one. Screen we have in the GoToMeeting.
Can I write again?
I never.
This one?
I never logged in there.
No.
Okay, so this was restarted, maybe the machine. But it says here with the meeting room. Maybe we'll have to log in again. Let's see. So I need to Chrome. Do you have to do that? So yeah, have to reopen this session. Let's just see where I can. Okay, now it's there.
Okay.
And if you can get sound for that.
So, Runa,
Connected to the
Yeah, no, it's okay. Okay. You are presently able to hear me? Barcelona? Okay, yes, it says. Well, in such case, I shall proceed. Now I am no longer able to hear you, but that doesn't really actually matter. I suppose that if I go too far off the rails, someone will stop me. So I will skip ahead to the well, I won't repeat the title slide. I'll just say briefly that our interest in the as SDI for Apps project spans the whole width of this hackathon, not specifically only our own ideas, and that the idea of spatial analysis, the future GIS applications, the ones that give answers without necessarily showing everything on maps, the infrastructure for spatial applications, bringing spatial power to simple programming languages, the use of sensor data, the application of them, lowering the cost of them, integrating sensors with smartphone technology and bringing this to new usage communities, as well as volunteer geographical information are key interests to us. So I will then move on to present the section of the ideas that we concern maps. Now, we kind of love maps because they always spoke to the explorer that lived within us before we realized that we were destined to become bureaucrats and various sort of occupants of desks and offices. And of course, the world was a great deal easier back when the world looked like this, and there was no risk of one of the great military powers of the world being ruled by Donald Trump anytime soon. We do, however, not love speed cameras. And as a consequence of our lack of love for speed cameras, we do love VGI, because one of the first applications that we kind of fell in love with was, of course, the reported locations of speed cameras. They were much easier to live with once we knew where they were. So the points, which is kind of the main thing that we are sharing in VGI, points and objects and relatively, what do you say, items, records for predefined databases and data models. All this is good, but our idea is also that we do spend a lot of energy on sharing maps in our daily lives. And we illustrate this here by a perfectly crumbled up piece of paper that I had on my desk, and which I'm sure that you have in your pockets even today as we speak, which shows meticulously drawn maps of cities with some random circles on them, given to you by a concierge whom you do not know, who doesn't know you, and whom you have no specific reason to trust, but who has nevertheless told you where you should get the meal that you will like tonight. So the point is that we share maps a lot, and we were interested to see, could maps be considered as VGI in themselves? So sharing the complete map, not just the points or the records to feed into a bigger data set to power a greater cause, so to speak, but to share the map. We sat down and had a brainstorm and tried to think up how could we approach this, what would be needed to make this happen. And much of this centers around an ad hoc standard called map compositions, which I will speak to you about a little bit now. Essentially, a map composition is an extension of what back in 2005 was defined as a web map context document, an XML specification that allowed people to recreate a map in a number of different applications based on layers loaded from different sort of internet servers. What we have done is to strip it down a little bit, make a JSON representation of it, and integrate a number of new data sources that have become more or less de facto standards for internet applications since 2005, and made a basis for a test bed for extending the web map context with new functionality. So while the original web map context was centered very much on web map servers and web feature servers, Of course, today, a lot of the information that we find on the internet is stored in KML documents or GeoJSON documents. And in addition to this, we are interested in, and this is the two red stipple circles, there's two of the items that we propose for as ideas for work today and tomorrow. We're interested in supporting access to sensor data from within map composition, so live tracking data or live VGI collection from human sensors, or for that matter, qualitative redlining. So the computerized equivalent of the pen scribble that I showed in the map in the previous slide. So this is not, as I said, an attempt to replace or compete with the web map context specification. It's an attempt of taking the concepts from it and bringing them up to speed with the world as per 2016, so catching up with 11 years. And it has sort of an ad hoc scope to it, so that at the end of it, we expect it to maybe converge if some ideas from what we are doing turn out to be valuable. So the first idea is how about digitizing this process? So we are standing in our hotel, we are asking for directions, and we are always given this sort of paper map of varying scale and accuracy, where someone is drawing a circle. And as I said, this process is very much based on exchange of information between two people who don't know each other and who don't know what they might like. So instead of having this process here, we would envisage to have this one as a mobile app where people are able to add their own redlining to a map composition and share it with other internet users using smartphones. That means that instead of getting the advice from someone you don't know, you can ask your friends who have been there before, and you would be able to get information that is contextualized within both the trust and the knowledge that you share of each other. The second thing, of course, is to be quickly able to create and share map sketches and redlining as part of these map compositions. So that means the equivalent of these circles that you see in the map here. And that means that in addition to supporting pre-existing layers of WMS or WFS, the map composition must also be able to store embedded user markup. So let's say embedded GeoJSON features where people can draw their own data on the map. This I'm using now as an example, a very relevant everyday life situation, but in professional context, this would also have a wide set of applications. Imagine 2 or 3 different government departments who would like to share a single view of a map composition, but who would like to add their own ideas on how something should be altered or changed in order for a spatial plan to move forward. Map compositions also serve a purpose as learning objects. And for this reason, one of the ideas that we listed was to develop a learning object metadata wrapper on top of map compositions so that they may be shared using tools such as Moodle. And in the information that has been circulated prior to this hackathon, there are links to a previously set up environment where this may be tested and deployed. And the idea here is to try and legitimize what is the purpose of sharing maps beyond the fact that it's convenient and nice. We would like to see which useful, socially useful areas is it that justify the investment of time and energy into defining map compositions. As Karel said initially, map compositions are presently only supported by a single software, namely HS layers. Now, HS layers is let's say a client layer that sits on top of open layers, which means that there is already developed the technology to visualize map compositions on any open layers based application. But there is also, of course, a number of other applications, and for for map compositions to be relevant, they are not useful if they only sit in a single software technology. So to reach out to the broad masses, we would also like to see clients built on other technologies, such as Leaflet. We mentioned that one specifically because Leaflet has a very broad appeal to people who are outside also of this Inspire and professional GIS community, and that would lend legitimacy and user base to a much broader market. In addition to visualizing map compositions, of course, it would be interesting to have an alternate tool to creating them too. And when we look at present day candidates, an authoring plugin for QGIS would be an interesting road to go down, we believe. That would allow people to create their map compositions in QGIS and then visualize them in a number of other clients of their choice later. But to have a professional authoring environment that is independent of, let's say, HS layers or any other specialized client. We have then the support for sensor data, VGI layers in map compositions. And we illustrate that rather dramatically here by a satellite, although the reality might very much more be a man with a smartphone who pushes a few points to or his location maybe to a central server. But it could be interesting to be able to embed inside map compositions the live location of a number of different assets. One of the use cases that we've been talking about has been the shared farming equipments in agricultural communities, where it would be able to track the location of where the equipment is, who is using it, what mileage is on it, what it's been used for at various times as a consequence of such a layer. The last one is an interesting case, and it's based on the fact that not long ago, word processing, which now is the left-hand job of every single one of us, or the right hand for those of us who have a left hand dominating. This used to be a professional task, and now, of course, it is not. But less than 50 years ago, this used to be a proper industry. There were people who actually had this as a job to purely type. And simple GIS tasks are on their way to becoming this next typing pool or the next airline check-in attendant or whatever sort of technology that is likely to replace a human function. So what we're interested in is to see if we are able to make a whiteboard that does for maps what Google Docs does for text. So the idea of that is already well known in its physical form, and they sell these map whiteboards for mounting on walls in schools that people can draw on and try to guess what is what and so on. But we're thinking a slightly more elaborate technology whereby people would share a GIS user interface. People would be able to add their own data from multiple points on multiple decentralized locations on the internet at any given time, add their own WMS, WFS layers, upload their own GeoJS or NKML layers, and draw their own markup on the map. And this, we believe, would have a very wide set of applications in, especially in the government sector, where the processing of private sector applications, no objection certificates, permits to dig here and there, all these sort of things are usually subject to assessments made by multiple government agencies and parties. And much of these assessments could be done efficiently in an online environment, but are done instead offline and through manual meetings. And such an online whiteboard for maps would be the perfect workbench for resolving a number of such issues and speeding up a lot of processes. So very simple in a way, but an interesting challenge. So anyone interested in these may group up wherever Carl tells you to group up after the introductions. Thank you very much from me, and I hope the audio wasn't too terrible. I see that Anne here writes that it is not perfect, which is the Norwegian way of saying that it's rather bad.
Thank you.
There will be another remote presentation?
Yes, it will be short.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Pilsen, Czech Republic. Can you hear me very well?
I can hear you, Mike.
Good. Good. I would like to say something about Scentlok, our Java application on server that is dealing with all this sensor data or measurements and observation, and it is now available for storing and publishing VGI data. So Scentlok is a server application written in Java. Its main component for storing, managing, publishing, processing, and converting sensor data from one format to other format. It's the meeting point for measured sensor data and for collected VGI observations now. Scentlok provides a RESTful API for both sides. It can be feed by data, by REST services, and it can be accessed or requested data by consumers. Scentlok is working over relation database model with spatial extension, namely Postgres, SQL, and PostGIS last version. The core of the Scentlok is the database model that is a little bit huge, but the central points are devices called units, positions of units, observations, and explanations of the values by sensors and phenomena. All rest of tables are helping tables to have groups of users, alerts, and warning states, configurations, and tracking. We are dealing not only with static sensors, but with mobile sensors too. For VGI, we made and implement extension tables that are in separate schema, and it's connected to some of core tables of the data model. The core table is for VGI's observations, VGI that has information about the device, about the user that collects it, and about the position where is the phenomenon that we are observing. We can connect one or several multimedia files that can be connected to one observation. And each observation is matched with some category and with some data set that is connected to the user and to the group of users. The VGI extension is able to store observation not only from mobile applications, but from the web portals and web applications. The attributes of VGI observation, it's not only the simple data types like numerical or textual values, but can be multimedia files too. And it means not only images, but voices or some videos. There are a few mandatory attributes, only category, device identification, timestamp, and something like that. And a lot of optional attributes can be added by the user. They are stored in separate columns in form of JSON. So there is not a limitation on number of attributes, but on the volume of the data file. There is some examples of usage of Scentlok as the middleware. There is screens of web applications for groundwater monitoring and meteorological station. All these data are stored in database and published by Scentlok. You can see a source code on GitHub, some news and detailed documentation on SDF4 apps developers blog, the keyword Open Sensor Network, And the running instance is on portal SBI for apps, Scentlok, VGI, but the instance is under high development now. But it means new features are available every day. Thank you for your attention, and in case of any question, just contact me or Karel will be contact directly on the place.
Two remote presentations. Do you have any more to? That was all, but there are also the app toolbox. Erik, maybe you will introduce that a little bit, because I think that's under challenge 2, right? So what you are, so that there's a possibility of combining what you have done in your projects with what Erik has started to work on. Maybe you give a very short introduction to that so that people are prepared. We will not be able to start working on all this at once, but we will have sequences of work sessions, right? Yes. Exactly, yes. So just a very short presentation.
All right. My name is Erik. As part of my thesis work, I've been looking at an application toolkit for creating citizen observatories. My take on this is that I don't believe in a full framework with a lot of knobs and inputs that will eventually generate a complete observatory for you. I believe you still need to do some development, but you shouldn't have to start from scratch each time. I'm also not a very big fan of hybrid applications, so my proposal is to use a new framework from Facebook called React Native. You will still develop most of your code in JavaScript, and most of the code you develop is shared between iOS and Android, but React Native will compile it to native code for you, so you will get the native look and feel of your platform, as well as the optimization by running native code. One challenge or one task for this hackathon could be to have a look at the map composition that Runar just talked about, and not only bring it to the leaflet platform, but also see if it's possible to bring it to native mobile development platforms. Yeah, the one I looked for, it was based on Cordova. Yeah, that's still hybrid. I want to bring it, see if it's possible to bring it native. Yeah.
Thank you. There you go. So afterwards, I think you need to then get together and then decide on what to address first. And then the third challenge, you have to upload a presentation. I think.
Disk. Is it not there? Should be in there. Yeah, I didn't see it here. Well, okay, let me talk about it actually, because it's a fairly quick presentation related to the challenge of sharing the data of the observations that we make. And the observations can be from sensors, it can be from people. It will include different kind of data representations and data types, including multimedia types, but also real-time sensor data. And all of the projects are doing that. We have different variations of data models. And some of them are aligned with the ISO GC observation and measurement model, which is an ISO standard, with various variations over the theme for this, also related to the OGC sensor observation service. So typically, storage of that can be done in WFS or SOS. This is done in Cobweb and in Citizense. The vSensit project. Yeah. Should I switch so they can hear us? Yeah, I think they can do that. Okay, that would work. But then we need to turn off the speaker here. So we don't need the speaker connection, at least for not from the microphone. See if that works. Maybe you will not hear me there, but let's see if I can do that at the same time here. Let's see if I quickly can get the right thing here also. Okay, now I see. We actually have two sticks here. Let's see if we can see it now. We can get this too. Now I think you should be able to see it there, also remotely. Let's see if we can organize for this. Change the presenter to the meeting room. Can read this meanwhile. Okay, so let me talk about this challenge, which is related to data model and data management interoperability of the observations related to the collected data from sensors and from VGI input. And what we suggest for the hackathon is to use a concrete example, which is the mobile air quality sensor that Leonardo showed in the introductory plenary, which is a mobile unit currently collecting air quality data here and can store that. So we have also a long history of this with a number of these units. So they are representative of one kind of sensor type, and we have all of the data. And we have also an implementation. This is first going into relational database for the raw form processing and then into WFS using a subset of the ISO GC observation and measurement model. Can also be exported as CSV JSON data. We see other observations where we need multimedia types such as pictures and audio, video, and so on, as we just heard about. And we see different approaches of the projects that is relevant. So the question for the hack is to look into to what extent we can have interoperable storage of sensor data, such as the one from the air quality mobile unit, and the Scentlok that we just heard about from the SDI for apps. Will that be able to store the sensor data we have? And we have it online, we have it available. We also have the Cobweb project and GeoCat services that are storing relevant data, and will that work as an umbrella solution for this? We have the vSensit project that is not using the classical OGC model, but instead using a more typical big data architecture, using the Apache big data stack that is used quite a lot in the industry for the time being, with different advantages and maybe disadvantages. So how does this work together? And finally, we have been discussing this for the last year or so with an activity called semantic or the sensor web enablement for citizen science in the OGC context, led by the CobWeb project. This includes some proposals for a citizen science profile using the suite of OGC standards, so with the observation and measurement meta model, playing along with the various ISO standards, and you see some relevant numbers for that here. So this has been partially realized in the CobWeb project and been discussed among the projects. So it's a relevant discussion point. How far will this bring us? So for this we have concrete data models. Here is an extension of the observation and measurement ISO OGC model with citizen science observation, citizen science metadata. And we also have the citizens data model, also extending variations of the observation and measurements model from the OGC ISO standards. In addition, we have some more extended approaches that has been recently discussed in OGC to not standardize on one model, but instead do mappings to a common ontology using linked data ontology linking approaches with RDF and linked data. And a proof of concept architecture for that has also been done in the context of OGC and the CobWeb project. So there are some relevant issues to discuss around this. And finally, we have the Open Sensor Network pilot from Scentlok that we just heard in the previous presentation, that has also a data model and approach, also with a link in the observation and measurements model. So how does these relate? Can we get to a common agreement on a model that actually can be useful across a number of projects? Because we all have different levels of ambitions with respect to generalization. And we have technologies, as we heard, that we have in our hands now working. And as an example of what we might do, given the people we are, back to the first slide here, can we actually take the sensor data that we physically have now, streaming, that can be stored into Scentlok from SDI for apps, which we heard in the previous presentation? And can this also relate as an example of an observation and measurement OGC compliant standard to the also OGC compliant approach with CobWeb and the GeoCat relationship to that? And then a discussion of what the alternatives are, where we both have the current big data stack with a number of NoSQL databases involved in the stack, and also use of Hadoop and other things for parallel processing. So there is a slightly different approach here in the vSensit project that is relevant for the discussion, as well as the ontology approach with RDF and linked data. So there are various, maybe different alternatives here that we can discuss in this group on data models and data management. Finally, we should also discuss the relationship to the publication in GEO's Inspire context, because this is data and data sets that we have collected. All of the projects have collected data for the last year or so. And what is then the relationship now to the Inspire GEO's context for data sharing? So which form in terms of databases, and which interface to the database and data model, versus also more classical file sharing of CSV data as an example. So there's a number of interesting issues here, and also some concrete technologies to look into. Okay, thank you. So this is all of the 3 challenges, and then up to you next.
Maybe we should ask before we go further, maybe we should ask if there are any questions. Anything unclear? Yeah. Just.
Well, we'll be in the same room, so we might be able to walk around here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the question is, how do we organize now? So there are we organize in 3 different groups after the challenges that you have heard about, but we are going to do work the 1.5 day from now, and we will be all in this room, and there will be breaks where we then have an when we talk in plenary again, and so that we can see if there are identify overlaps or make sure that some people can change group so that you can, so we have some exchange across the different groups, because there are overlaps on many levels. So I think what all of us need to do is to pick one first, and then in each of these 3 groups, we decide then on what to address first, and then we meet again, and then we tell each other what we've been doing, and then we reorganize after having that information. I think this is the best idea we came up with in terms of organizing this hackathon. Just so you know, we will group here in 3 groups. It's a big room, so it should be possible to be able to sit and work rather undisturbed. We also offer actually a remote participation in the working groups. So there are virtual meeting rooms that we need to include in our, we need to sit tight then that so those who are attending remotely will be able to hear. Here is easy, of course, in this part of the room, but might be some electricity issues. But each group need at least 1 computer, which then are dedicated to the virtual meeting room. The others can use the computers to hack or write, but 1 computer needs to be reserved to the meeting room, the virtual meeting room. Yes. So what time do we have now? We have 20 minutes to group ourselves, I suppose.
So maybe that you can ask at the beginning, hand up hands.
Yes, yeah. So we can do the chat. Yes, go ahead, Carol. You do.
So the first, who is ready to work in challenge 1? So 1,
5.
2, challenge 2. Okay, and challenge 3, this is sensors. Data models, of course. So we have the basic group here. Yes, I will probably also start with challenge 2, but I will move a little around. So we have allocated. Okay, challenge 1 could be here. Yes, challenge 2 there, and challenge 3 there. So here, challenge 1, challenge 2 will sit on the end, and challenge 3 in the middle, opposite side. Okay, so probably will be good if in every group people will start with some short introduction to colleagues, who is who, what they are doing, if they know, because it will be good. Will be nice if we will really deliver during today and tomorrow some result, and it is good to make the good contacts.
Yes.
So I would like also ask our remote colleagues, please, to join the right rooms to be able to participate on the discussion.
Yes.
So it will be only step by step.
Yes.
Thomas, are you able to set up the group for challenge 2 on a school?
You created a room already, right? Yes. So challenge 2 will be on your webinar room. I will broadcast this to those who signed up. So I need, if you send me the link to your webinar room, we already have the link to challenge 3 on the GoToMeeting, and then I will set up also a webinar room for challenge 1. And I will broadcast all this in one email to those who registered. And we will also post those on the Facebook event site. So the Facebook event site is Citizens Observatories, VGI and Citizens Observatories.
So it will be nice if anything you will put on Facebook, Twitter, yes, to make information around our event.
Yes. Okay. Seems to be clear.
So please, the map people here, yes? Challenge 2 now, yes. Challenge 1. Yes, my people are here. Okay. Tomáši.
running